peace. And I think it's a role for members of parliament to mobilize resources from these different sources to actually ensure that tangible projects are actually implemented on the ground, that there are people that voted for them who actually see adaptation action on the ground, because that's where the impacts are being felt. That's where the damages are actually happening. May we take action on the ground and scale it at speed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles. And Dr. Mafo will come now after lunch. But at this point, I would like to open to some three burning questions. I start here.
Firstly, I'd like to appreciate this privilege to address this esteemed chamber. Honorable Chair, distinguished guests, good afternoon. It is with great humility that I introduce myself. My name is Diljot Dinsa, and I am a student specializing in accounting and finance at Strathmore University, which is situated here in Nairobi, Kenya. Now, we have discussed coming up with a range of resolution and policies aimed at fostering and channeling investment toward advancing sustainable green growth. How can we ensure that the benefits we are discussing today do not disproportionately favor the private sector, given the persistent challenges of corruption? Kindly expand more on measures that are or will be put in place to guarantee that the policies and incentives being enacted are distributed fairly among a diverse range of stakeholders, including marginalized communities.
Can I get from, yeah.
Thank you, moderator and chair. My name is Samuel Masiwo. I come from Homa Bay County. I wanted to raise about four critical issues around green growth and sustainable production. In terms of research interventions that are defined in policy through a legislative framework to help curb instances of cancer that has increased as a result of pesticides and fungicides. And we realize this then affects both the farmer that is in constant contact with these chemicals, and eventually it ends with the consumer. Two, if by us coming together, there could ensure that the various climate players and actors, parliamentarians, the private sector, youth actors, and even the private sectors, if they could be brought together, because at the moment everybody seems to be doing something, but distinctively on their own. So could there be a policy through legislation that brings all this together so that there is one way to go through it? And three, in Europe, for example, there is pollution, but their rivers are largely clean. I come from Lake Victoria. If you went there, in books, it's the freshwater lake, but if you went in there, you would want to look at it casually and wonder if it's any fresher. So my question would be, what interventions are in place to help curb the pollution in the rivers and the water bodies that we have? And then four, which is the final one, Chair, with the permission, could there be a water harvesting policy like it is in Rwanda, where if, for example, you want a particular construction approved, then in it you must tell how you want to harvest the waters that would come thereof, as a way of helping to curb runoffs that eventually take all the debris into the water bodies and in turn affect population. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Can we get a question from West Africa? Southern Africa? Okay, proceed.
Thank you very much, Juma Zakaria, young parliamentarian from South Sudan. I will not going to make a statement. I will go directly to my question. First, the first question is, since we start this meeting, all the organizations that concerning the environment or climate change, honestly, we do have any organization in my country working in that area. As she was talking about before, that some of parliament, they don't have any knowledge, they don't have anything to do with the climate change. But I will add that South Sudan is part of that parliament that she mentioned. But I think I'm the only MP start like in that area. Maybe last month I was in Germany for the same dialogue. How can we benefit from all this information and all the organization? How can we get all these services to my people in South Sudan? Because South Sudan, as I said last time, it is part of East Africa, it is part of Africa, and it's part of world. Thank you.
Very much. Any other question? Can I hear from Honorable? Is that Honorable Chemaswet?
Thank you so much, Chair. Chemaswet Kisos, Member of Parliament for Soy constituency in Uganda. I'm really grateful that we are here when Honorable Kajwang is the chair and the convener of the dialogue. And I'm also grateful that he's seated with my chairperson on the Committee on Climate Change in Parliament of Uganda. Are we really one, Mr. Chair? Are we united climate issues? Are we lamenters? The only person who is not lamenting is Azim from Aga Khan, because he seems to have implemented a lot in relation to climate change. What about the shared resources, internationally shared resources of various countries? Are we using them well? Are we complaining a lot? Are we divided in these? Is Honorable Kajwang working together with the Chairman Songa, Lawrence, on issues to do with Lake Victoria? Are regional blocks helpful in terms of creating unity on climate? Are we together on Migingo? So that we don't need to divide ourselves, we need to work together. For this region as EAC, and other regions as well, West Africa and all the rest, I believe East African Federation will be more helpful in terms of helping us with climate change. If we are to talk of Lake Victoria, if we are to talk of Mount and other natural resources, including Lake Turkana as well, these are issues that we should be united together in one front. Financing, Mr. Chair, financing. Yesterday we heard of UAE putting money, promising to give 7.5 billion US dollars. USA, 30 million US dollars. What about the African states? Are they only lamenting and complaining a lot? What have they put on the table in terms of combating climate change?
Africa, we are also talking about the Niger Delta, we are talking about the Zambezi and all. This is Africa. I think he has put a number of questions. I want to close so that the speakers can give summaries, but maybe one more burning.
Okay, thank you, Chair. My name is Andrew Joseph Lilmingit, MP from Kenya, and I sit as an executive member for climate change at the Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association, an elected member. Now, I want to ask, there's a person who presented here, Ms. Mother Adenia, on smart climate farming solutions. Also, in our region, we still see that, including hydroponics, we still see that as a luxury and belongs only to the rich. How can we extend the same to the common mwananchi within the regions that we come from? Secondly, I want to ask my colleague from Uganda who just stood that we are here. The reason why AU met is because we need to share the kind of ideas that we have, and we provide solutions to the entire Africa region and the world. Finally, full member in leadership, how can we take this to the young, vibrant youth across the country so that they can own this initiative? We make these climate change initiatives more vibrant, more sexy, so that the youth can also get involved in this, so that they can for the climate change. And there's a Swahili proverb that says, bend the fish while it's still wet. I believe if we use the strength of the youth that we have at the moment so that they can take this on a ship, they can actually help provide solutions to curb this climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, the youth representative. Can we hear from, in 1 minute each, from the speakers? Yes?
Yes, thank you. I am late in my next session, so let me, if you allow me, to start by addressing the first question from the lady, the student from Nairobi. I think from our side at the African Development Bank, we do have some rigorous procedures in spending our resources when we approve any project. So issues relating to fighting against corruption, ensuring that the project's benefits to the local communities, etc., are well considered in such processes. And our member countries also are well aware of those processes. So on that side, I think we are not worried because we strictly apply our policies on that. And the last point I wanted to touch was on financing. The gentleman was speaking about the need for domestic resource mobilization for climate action and green growth. I think this is a very important point. And already some African countries are making effort in allocating some part of their national budget to addressing climate crisis and also supporting their green growth agenda. But we know that it is not enough. We know that some have made commitment that 10% of their climate commitments will be supported through domestic resources, but the rest has to come from international financing. So it is a combination of both domestic resource mobilization and international financing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you. And also to add on resource mobilization, I think, as I indicated in my speak, it is very important for parliamentarians to ensure that the investments that we are already putting on the ground, the development projects, embed climate resilience and adaptation, mobilizing domestic resources. At the moment, I think about 26% is being channeled through government sources to adaptation, and that could be increased. And also, we also have an important role to mobilize other stakeholders, private sector, international finance institutions, to ensure that more resources are put to adaptation, and the adaptation country compacts that we have developed and that we are developing with the other countries will be an important channel where countries can actually mobilize more resources for adaptation. And also to the honorable member from South Sudan, I think you as members of parliament, I think you also have an important role to understand the climate change issues, risks on the ground. And I think the work that we are doing, we work with different partners, government, civil society, IFIs, youth, technical partners from the national government and also global experts to ensure that we bring the knowledge, the science of climate change impacts and risks and embed them in the development and design of projects working with international finance institutions. So I think it's very important as we implement the sustainable development and adaptation agenda that we work together to advance action and scale on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Martha.
Um, Thank you, Honorable Member, for the question regarding smart climate solutions. I think, yes, you're completely right. Historically, solutions such as hydroponics have been more for the large-scale farmers and is definitely something that is seen as a luxury by many of the younger farmers. However, we are starting to see today that there are many innovations in this space. So what I would suggest the young people interested in using hydroponics, there are ways that they can adopt it. You don't have to start with the Rolls-Royce system, but I think today with our new education system, CBC, there are elements that we can implement that are not as expensive. And obviously, we would need to work with some of the financing partners to finance these as well. Thank you, Chair.
Martha. Ambassador, can we hear your final?
Yes, thank you. So the main point I was making was that there is a role for an organization that is outside the formal government sector, and it can make a huge difference. I described how we as an organization work within an ethical framework. We start by understanding needs. We then draw on best practices internationally to provide solutions, or even undertake developmental research to see what works through innovative practices. We draw resources from the Ismaili community, His Highness the Aga Khan, but also partner organizations that want to work with us and have mutual interests, and that all of this requires leadership, which is provided by His Highness the Aga Khan.
Thank you very much. At this juncture, first of all, I want to say Honorable Kofi from West Africa, Ghana, you will ask your question in the next session. Please prepare it. And also I want to appeal to the Sergeant at Arms to mobilize the members who are outside there to come on the stairs for the group photo with the Right Honorable Speaker. Lunch is going to be for 45 minutes. Lunch is going to be for 45 minutes. Let us try to keep time so that we come back for the next session and wind up. Can we give a big clap for all of us? Thank you very much.
Honorable members, the Speaker of the National Assembly will join us for lunch, and I urge that before we do the lunch, we will do a group photo. We'll do a group photo. I think the Speaker of the National Assembly is coming down the stairs to join us, just outside, when we walk outside, and then we'll quickly proceed for lunch and come back for the main resolutions and declarations out of this meeting.
Thank you very much.
This is a 4-axis CNC sintered stone cutting equipment developed by a Tao company. In addition to the blade 90-degree rotation and infrared positioning function, it also has the function of automatic upload and download board. Compared with the ordinary rogue plate CNC cutting machine, the equipment is changed from double blade to single head blade. It not only ensures a good cutting